I need birthday gifts for my grandsons, but I don't want to just get another store-bought toy that will break from the cheap plastic materials. And instead of promoting some cartoon or video game, I need to build fine motor skills, hand-eye coordination, problem-solving skills, and look great while doing it. So I came up with 2 gifts for young boys to share with you today. Welcome to the double feature. Let's get into it. Mazes are shown to help develop fine motor skills, visual skills, problem-solving skills, and give confidence once solved. But they also will help these young boys develop patience. And that I can get behind. This project is a double-sided, handheld marble maze. The marble will pass through this middle hole and go from one side to the other. So we started with a chunk of ash on the CNC long mill, and here you see I'm cutting out the recess for the acrylic inlay. Here we start cutting out the maze itself for the marble to travel around in. It's just a 1/4 inch down cut end mill, cutting a 1/4 inch down for a slightly smaller than 1/4 inch steely to roll around in the hole. And there you have it. I set up this tool path with the center hole that passes through as the 00 on the design. So when I flip it over, I can just line up 00 on that pass-through hole that punches through the other side, and now I know I'm perfectly aligned for both sides. And so then I cut out the recess for the acrylic inlay on the other side. I designed 2 mazes, one for each side. That way you wouldn't be able to memorize the pattern. You can see here also that I cut out the handles and whatnot off screen. So once I flipped it over, that was already done. And then after this, it gets pretty easy. We'll just wait for this to cut out this maze. The nice thing about making this out of ash is that it's going to be sturdy, be passed around, tossed around, and the 1/4 inch acrylic windows in it are going to be sturdy as well. Well, they'll get scratched up over time, but if they ever need replaced, they'll be screwed in with exterior screws and we can swap it out. Once it's done, I take it over to the router table and use a 1/2 inch round over to make all the edges really, really smooth to the touch. And that's that. I didn't record sanding or finishing because, well, we've all seen that 100 times, but here's the project. But will they like it?
Special present made for you with love.
Nice. That is cool.
Mom just got a hole in there. He knows what his name is. Oh,
For this next project, we're going to be making multicolored blocks, but they're going to be custom. These aren't going to be square or just like everything else you see. My grandson happens to be into the moon, so that's the theme we'll be using for this project. We start by gluing these up into pairs. I am currently using wormy maple and padauk so that we have contrasting woods on each side. You'll notice that I'm gluing these up in alternating stacks, so only every other joint gets glued. Otherwise, you'll end up with a big block. So after a couple hours, we take them out of the clamps and separate them. and then we send them through the wide belt sander. We get them all to exactly 1 inch thick this way. This is where the fun begins. We get to cut out all the different shapes. In this case, they're moon and stars and comets. Here you can see all the different shapes for this particular set, but you can make them however you want. Just remember, the more complicated the shape, the more you have to sand. Ugh.
That's enough of that.
Once the sanding's done, we can start cutting out the base to hold the pieces in the box. So the bottom acts as a way to hold the pieces, but it also is kind of a spatial relations game, just when you're putting the pieces away as well. You'll see that in a bit. So yeah, I use my laser for this part, but what else are you supposed to use it for? So you can see here, I'm cutting out the box. I just programmed it with finger joints all the way around, including the lid, so it'll snap right in. And this is the cover I made for my grandson's box of blocks. For the glue up, I just used Starbond CA glue and just started assembling it, and you'll see here how it goes together with these finger joints. In the description below will be a link to a really good tool to be able to make finger joint box of any size you want and have them spit out ready to put in your laser program. So I just tack it together with a few small drops. Now once it's all in place, I will come back through and put a bead of CA glue around the joints. Here you can see that bottom that we cut out at the very beginning. This holds the pieces in place when the lid is on, so they don't slide around. I didn't use any hinges on this. The lid just snaps into the finger joints.
That's enough of that.
Well, if you've ever been around a toddler, you know they put everything in their mouth. So these blocks are coated in food-safe butcher block oil. Keeps them fresh and nice and tasty. So once again, the question is, does he like it? I think the answer is yes.